The series begins with a girl named Carmi. She wakes up from a nightmare feeling startled, but calms down when she finds her teddy bear with her, hugging it tightly. However, she is bewildered when Renee, her dog, starts talking to her. She understands him as if he were a normal person just like her. She is shocked at that moment when she finds herself floating in the air with the bed underneath her. As soon as she screams, she falls back onto the bed, not understanding what happened or how it happened. Afterward, she meets her friend, Kev, and tells him what happened to her when she woke up. She believes that she can definitely fly without knowing it. Kev tells her that nightmares and dreams sometimes appear as if they are real, but that is not true. It is likely that her subconscious mind got confused. To prove to Kev that there is something strange about her, she shows him her reflection in the mobile phone camera, and her face appears illuminated as if there is a light shining on it. Kev tells her that she must have played with the camera settings on her phone. At that moment, Carmi gets angry with him and kicks a trash can, which flies up and sticks to a tree. This shocks both Carmi and Kev asks Carmi not to touch anything else because no one should see what happened. However, Carmi doesn't focus on what he's saying because she is excited about having superpowers and thinks she will be a special hero. This might make her schoolmate, Liana, die of jealousy because she will be outstanding and unique in the upcoming school play auditions. Kev asks her to calm down and not do anything crazy till they figure out what happened to her, because if what she is saying is true and she indeed has superpowers, she might have enemies who could harm her. Every superhero has an enemy. At that moment, Carmi remembers the nightmare she had, where someone was calling her name in a scary voice. When Carmi and Kev arrive at school, Liana comes over and calls Carmi by her real name, which we find out is Carmela. Kev reminds her that Carmi doesn't like anyone calling her Carmela, but it seems Liana is intentionally trying to annoy and provoke Carmi. She asks her why she is so determined to participate in the auditions. Carmi tells her that she loves costumes, makeup, photography, and theater. This makes Liana even more upset because she has spent years training and taking it seriously, having won the school's beauty queen competition for 3 consecutive years. She is not ready for someone trivial like Carmi to come and take her dream or her place. Carmi responds by saying that she is very good at all the famous TikTok dances and will surely succeed in the auditions. When Kev tries to speak, Liana warns him not to talk to her again and then walks away, leaving them both. Later, everyone is in the school theater to perform in the play auditions. Liana looks at Carmi with great displeasure for attending the audition and asks her before they start dancing not to imitate her moves. During the dance performance, Liana tries to push Carmi. Suddenly, Carmi finds herself moving very quickly all over the stage. When Kev notices what is happening, he worries that someone will notice. Afterward, Carmi unintentionally knocks down Liana, causing Liana to lose her temper. She deliberately pushes Carmi more and tries to mess up her dance. Carmi decides to push Liana back and does so with such strange strength that Liana crashes into the tables. The tables knock over the lights, breaking the water pipes and drenching Liana and her friends. This causes an electrical short circuit throughout the entire theater. Carmi then goes to the office of Vice Principal Chase. Her secretary, Johnson, is in disbelief over the damage Carmi caused in the theater. At that moment, Kev arrives to talk to Carmi. Johnson prevents him and asks him to leave. That moment, Liana comes out of the Vice Principal's office and threatens Carmi that she will make her regret what she did to her. Carmi then enters Chase's office and tries to defend herself. She sees Kev through the window, signaling her not to say anything about what is happening to her. Chase decides to think about Carmi's participation in the play and the theater. Afterward, Carmi meets with Kev and tells him that Chase, the vice principal, said she would still decide if she would join the play's team, meaning her chances are now lost. Kev tells her that it is clear something inside her gives her strength and she needs to find out the cause and when it happened. She tells him that it might be hormones because she just turned 13 today and it is her birthday. They go to the library together, where a student tries to steal a book. Suddenly, the alarm goes off and the librarian catches him, taking the book from him and sticking a note on his forehead that says he is banned from the library for life. Kev then gets a book from the library about comic book stories, talking about supernatural powers and mythical monsters that existed before humans. He also gets another book about hybrids because he suspects Carmi might be a hybrid of a monster. He finds a book about vampires and reads about their superpowers, which are all similar to Carmi's. These powers typically appear at age 13, which is Carmi current age. Carmi tells him it is impossible for her to be a vampire because her parents are ordinary humans. He reminds her that she is adopted and her biological parents might be vampires. She informs him that no one knows who her biological parents are because her current parents adopted her when she was 3 months old. At that moment, Carmi receives a message from her dad, Bill, asking her to return home. She grabs her bag and leaves quickly. On the way, Carmi hears the same scary voice she heard in her dream, causing her to panic and run. She bumps into a girl named Madison, who tells her that she just moved to the neighborhood and is also her classmate at school. After that, they walk together and talk. At that moment, a driver loses control of his car and veers off the road. Carmi grabs Madison and moves them to the other side in less than a second. Madison is shocked by what happened and wants to know from Carmi how she did that. Carmi, nervously, tells her it was just an adrenaline rush and says goodbye, using the excuse that she is in a hurry. At that time, Kev is still in the library. We find out he helps the librarian with organizing and works with him. At that moment, Carmi sends a message to Kev saying she can fly now. The librarian reads it because Kev's phone was next to him. He then gives the phone to Kev, who is shocked by what Carmi sent and that the librarian now knows Carmi's secret. When Carmi returns home, she finds the dog, Red, waiting for her and talking to her again, telling her that her fangs have appeared. Carmi is surprised by his words and touches her teeth with her hand to check. She is shocked to find that she indeed has long fangs, but suddenly can control and hide them. After that, she enters the house and finds her mom welcoming her and introducing her to Dylan, the son of their new neighbor in the neighborhood. At that time, the librarian has a safe where he keeps many jars, each containing a human the size of an ant. We understand that they are vampires, and the librarian captures them with the help of a specialized vampire hunting group. At night, Carmi is in her room, flying in the air, not knowing how to control her flying ability, or even how to land and sit on the bed. She knocks everything around her down. When her bedroom door knocks, she falls onto the bed and hides the mirror so its light doesn't show. Her mom, Asha, enters and asks why she is breaking her things and making noise. Carmi then has to lie and says she is practicing for the play she will perform at school. Her mom asks her to practice quietly, tidy up her room, and then sleep. She leaves the room, and Carmi quickly tidies up her room using her super speed, making it neat and tidy in less than a second. At that moment, her mom comes back in, having forgotten to tell her something, and is shocked that Carmi cleaned the room so quickly. Carmi tells her that the room wasn't that messy, so she finished quickly. Meanwhile, the librarian meets with Dylan, discover that they know each other, that the librarian's name is the Collector. Dylan is a vampire hunter specialized in catching strange supernatural creatures like vampires. Collector asks Dylan to catch more vampires for him because he found a buyer who wants a lot of them. Dylan informs him that he captures these creatures to keep their evil away from humanity, not to profit and trade them. At that moment, the Collector takes advantage of the fact that Dylan isn't looking, tries to take the stick that Dylan uses to hunt vampires. The stick is enchanted, shrinking him to the size of an ant. The Collector is shocked and panicked, begging Dylan to return him to his normal size, promising never to touch his things again. Dylan gives him an onion, telling him to take a bite. When the Collector takes a bite, he returns to his normal size. The next morning at school, when Carmi suddenly opens the door, it breaks due to her strength. At that moment, she sees Dylan and talks to him to help if he needs anything since he's still new to the school. She describes to him the locations of his classes. After that, she goes to the school theater for play rehearsals. She finds Liana giving her the hardest script in the entire play. Then they start rehearsing the dance for the play. Carmi accidentally bumps into Liana, causing Liana to get angry and remind her that she's not a main member of the team, just an understudy. At that moment, Kev arrives and tells Carmi that he stayed up all night reading about hybrids and discovered that she might be part of a larger entity. Carmi makes fun of his words because it's all just stuff from comic books, but Kev warns her that there are people who don't like her kind and aim to hunt and imprison them. He tells her she needs to be careful when using her powers because she could cause disasters and chaos. He explains that they need to find a way to protect her. It's clear that Carmi isn't interested in what Kev is saying and tells him about the play script she'll be performing, noting the strange coincidence that it's called Fangs of the Opera. Kev gets upset because she's not interested in what he's telling her. Then Dylan goes to introduce himself to Madison, wants to know if she knows Carmi well. She's surprised that he's asking about Carmi so much, but Dylan tells her he's only asking because she's his neighbor. Meanwhile, Kev is with Carmi, teaching her martial arts so she can protect herself. He tells her that when she turns 16, her group will give her a choice to be either superhuman or human. If she refuses to choose, the evil side of her nature will take over. But Carmi still doesn't seem interested. All she's thinking about is the play and how Liana managed to memorize the entire script while she hasn't, despite her superpowers. Suddenly, she tears the punching bag while training, and Kev is knocked back by the force of the blow, rushes to check on Kev, and tells him she didn't mean to do that. At that moment, Madison walks in and is surprised to see the torn punching bag and Kev on the ground. Then Kev, Carmy, and Madison leave school together. At that time, Dylan is watching them from afar. Later, Dylan goes to Kev in the library and asks him for books by the Japanese author Soyuho Shima. Kev takes him to the storeroom where all the books are kept. That moment, Dylan sees the hybrid book and asks if it's entertaining and not depressing. Kev nervously tells him that the book is entertaining but fictional. At that moment, the collector walks in and asks Kev to continue organizing the books. He sees Dylan with him. The next day at school, Liana and her friends watch the training video. They are very surprised that Carmy's face is visible in the camera with a bright light hiding her face and features. Then Kev calls Carmy and tells her that the book says that the lost hybrids are forced to become fully superhuman. He warns her again not to use her powers now so that no one knows her truth. She stays safe. At that moment, Dylan is with the collector and tells him that he found one of the hybrid vampires and that she's also at the school. The collector gets very excited. Then Kev is sitting and reading a book about hunters whose mission is to hunt vampires. The book says that they could be the principal, a new guy in town, or one of the parents. Kev gets aboard and puts pictures of everyone around Carmy or connected to her, even remotely. He sends a message to Carmy to be cautious of anyone she knows. At this time, Carmy arrives at school after using her flying abilities because she was late for play rehearsal. She discovers that the director has been changed and Assistant Principal Chase is now in charge. After that, the photographer takes pictures of all the students participating in the play. When it's Liana's turn, she forces him to take multiple pictures because she thinks she's beautiful. Her pictures are the most important in the play. The photographer seems annoyed and takes her photos without focusing or caring. When Carmy smiles, her fangs suddenly appear. She covers them with her hands. Her picture turns out with bright lighting as usual. Then Dylan goes to talk to Carmy. She congratulates him on joining the play, especially since he seems introverted. He tells her that he's trying to be social and make friends because making friends will be difficult for a new student. Besides, he didn't have many friends at his old school. Carmy tells him that making friends is hard for everyone, and even though she's been at this school since she was little, she sometimes feels invisible. She offers to help Dylan memorize the play's script and explains that it's about a vampire and a hunter. Dylan agrees. They start rehearsing the play together. At that moment, Chase sees them and is impressed with their performance together. Carmy is very happy, thanks Dylan for agreeing to help and rehearse with her. At that time, Kev begins his search for the hunter. His first target is Carmy's house. He watches her father, Bill, first. When he sees him about to open the door, he runs and escapes before Bill sees him. Kev crosses Bill off the board because he's no longer a suspect. At that moment, the collector takes one of the jars containing vampires, looks at the vampire trapped inside, and tells him that he is valuable and very important to one of his clients. He then puts him back in his place. At school, Chase is sitting with the photographer, and they are watching the photos he took of the students participating in the play. Chase is annoyed with Liana for being photographed so much and is very surprised by Carmy's photo, which has intense lighting. She tells the photographer that Carmy's photo is ruined and won't be printed with the other photos. There isn't enough time for another photo session because the photos need to go out with the play's advertisements so that parents can start buying tickets. At that moment, Liana walks in, wanting to take her photos to show them to her social media followers, but Chase doesn't agree as the photos need to be uploaded to the school's website first. Liana gets very angry and upset. Meanwhile, Kev continues his search for the hunter, this time spying on Madison. She sees him and asks if he's hunting for something since he has binoculars and is moving quietly. He tells her that he's trying to help a friend but feels he's not suited for the task. Kev discovers that Madison loves comic books, especially those about vampires and werewolves, just like him. Madison asks him if he were a werewolf, would he suffer in silence or howl under the moonlight? He replies that he's never thought about it and asks her what she would choose if she were a werewolf. She tells him she would choose to howl under the moonlight. Kev then returns to his board and crosses out Madison's picture because hunters don't howl under the moonlight. At that moment, a collector comes in and asks him to go out to the customers in the library because he doesn't like dealing with them. At home, Carmy tells her mother, Asha, that she feels she's getting better at acting in the play, but not as good as Liana, who is a professional at acting and dancing. Mother advises her to be herself and not imitate Liana to become famous like her. At that moment, Chase calls Asha. Carmy is anxious and curious about the call's reason. At night, Carmy is in her room, removing her makeup while talking to Kev on the phone. Reassures her that the photo session ended safely and reminds her to be cautious of everything and everyone till he finds out who the hunter is. Carmy tells him that he is overly paranoid. At that moment, her foster siblings, Aiden and Jaden, walk in and are shocked to find her floating in midair. They sit with her and force her to confess how she can fly. Carmy tries to deny it, but they point out that her feet have left marks on the ceiling, meaning she was also walking on it. They also heard her talking to her dog, Ren, as if he could understand her. Aiden holds up a mirror, shows her the difference between his reflection and hers, noting that she is glowing strangely. Carmy gets very nervous, tells him it's because of the moisturizer she uses. Suddenly, her fangs appear. Aiden and Jaden are thrilled that she is a vampire, leaving Carmy with no excuse. She then reveals to them that she is a blood feeder, not a vampire. They ask her the difference between the two, but she still doesn't know. At that moment, her two siblings ask her to help them in the competition they are participating in so they can defeat Murphy and Fry Guy. They just need her to help them win the contest with her supernatural abilities. When Carmy refuses, they threaten to expose her secret to everyone, forcing Carmy to agree. The next day at school, everyone is practicing the dance for the play. One of the team members, named Benny, twists his leg. At that moment, Chase decides to replace Benny with Dylan. Dylan then asks Carmy to train him just like he trained her. At this time, Carmy receives a call from her siblings, asking her to come to the competition as they agreed. She has to apologize to Dylan, saying she's not free at the moment. He gives her his phone number so she can contact him when she is free. Afterward, Carmy goes with her siblings to the competition venue, which she discovers is a hidden place that no one can easily enter. Everyone there is eccentric. When the competition starts, Aiden and Jaden are ahead in the game, but their opponents, Murphy and Fry Guy, try to cheat. Carmy complains to the judge, but she tells her that video games have no rules or mercy. There is no such thing as cheating. At that moment, Fry Guy and Murphy advance over Aiden and Jaden. Carmy notices Murphy trying to sabotage Jaden's device, so she pushes him away with her strength, sending him flying. Suddenly, a person approaches Carmy and tells her that what she did is unacceptable and that she needs to be more careful. At that moment, Carmy is surprised to see everything around them frozen in place. The person tells her that he is a supernatural being like her and that they exist everywhere, moving in the shadows to coexist with humans without revealing their identities. Carmy asks him how she can help her siblings if she can't use her powers. He explains that as long as they live in the human world, they must not change anything with their abilities. If she wants to use her powers constantly, she must live in the supernatural world. He also tells her that her supernatural abilities do not negate her humanity or control her, and that she should use them for good or a noble purpose. Carmy is shocked to learn there is a special world for supernatural beings. She asks if he is a vampire like her. He reveals that he is a wizard. Then he disappears. Everything returns to normal. Carmy finds her siblings back in the lead in the game. She is very happy for them. When the competition ends with their victory, they give the prize to Carmy, thinking that she helped them win with her abilities. Meanwhile, Kev is in the library when Dylan arrives and asks for a book called The Butcher. Kev informs him that it hasn't been released yet, that he will get him a copy as soon as it is available. Dylan thanks him and leaves, but forgets his phone in the library. Kev picks it up and follows him to return it. Suddenly, Kev discovers that Dylan is climbing the wall, realizes that Dylan is the hunter. Kev immediately calls Carmy, asking her to come quickly. When Carmy reaches Kev, she is also shocked to find out that Dylan is the hunter. As they try to escape, the stick that Dylan uses for hunting hits Kev's leg, shrinking him to the size of an ant. Kev falls from the building's wall, and Carmy jumps after him to catch and save him. She catches him before he hits the ground. Amazed at how Dylan's stick could do such a thing, she puts Kev in her pocket and hurries away. At home, Kev asks Carmy to get him an onion because he read in the hybrid book that onions act like an antidote, returning a person who has been shrunk to their normal size. As soon as Kev takes a bite of the onion, he returns to his normal size, leaving both him and Carmy astonished by what has happened. The next day at school, Carmy talks to Kev about her real parents and wonders why none of them left her any note about her true identity or the hunters who might endanger her life. Suddenly, they see Dylan in front of them, making them very nervous and trying to avoid talking to him. At that moment, Liana arrives and takes Dylan away, saying she has important news for him. When Liana talks to Dylan, she tells him she needs him to convince Chase to add her special dance to the play, and she will allow him to dance behind her, since he is one of her admirers. Dylan is surprised by what she says and tells her he is not her admirer as she claims, but she ignores his response and gives him an outfit to wear to meet her at the theater. When Dylan puts on the outfit, he starts practicing the dance with Liana. It becomes evident that he cannot dance at all, which makes Liana very upset and frustrated. Later, Madison decides to help Dylan with the dance, causing Liana to become jealous and ask Madison not to interact with Dylan because they might get involved with each other. Meanwhile, Carmy is at home with her mom and dad and decides to ask them why they adopted her. They are surprised by her question, but then bring out her file with all the information about her. It says that her real parents are unknown and that she was found at the age of 3 months at a fire station in the St. Paul area. At that time, Bill and Asha tell her that those who found her only had a note with her name and birth date, and they handed her over to the social services office. When they went there and saw her, they became very attached to her and decided to adopt her because they couldn't have children at that time. Even after they had Aiden and Jaden, they never thought for a second about abandoning her. Carmy is deeply moved by their words and tells them that she loves them very much. At that moment, Aiden and Jaden notice a black car parked in front of their house. Inside the car, there is a strange-looking man and woman wearing suits and black glasses. They think that these people are here because of Carmy's secret, and they agree to take action to get rid of them. They call a group of clowns to come and scare them. Indeed, these mysterious people are afraid of clowns, as they have a phobia of them. Like most people, they leave the place and drive away. Later, Carmy is in the library with Kev. She is upset because she doesn't know anything about her true identity or her life. Kev shows her a name of one of the authors, which is Octavia. It is said that she was a university professor in mythology, but there are no pictures of her to know what she looks like or to find her because she wrote a lot about hybrids. Carmy realizes that Octavia might have information about her real parents and decides to fly with Kev to the university to start looking for Octavia. When they arrive at the university, they ask the secretary about Octavia. She tells them that Octavia is not available and doesn't like to meet anyone because she prefers isolation. She advises them that anything they want to know about Octavia can be found in her books and stories. At that moment, Carmy decides to use her powers to sneak into Octavia's office with Kev. Unfortunately, they are caught by the secretary, who decides to kick them out. But then Carmy discovers the secretary's secret. The secretary is actually Octavia herself, hiding from everyone using this ruse. Octavia reveals that she knows Carmy is Carmilla, shocking Carmy that Octavia knows her and even knows her original name. Octavia then tells Carmy that she was once a bloodsucker like her. She asks Carmy if she enjoys her supernatural abilities and if she has decided whether to choose to be a vampire or a human when she turns 16. Carmy admits she hasn't thought about it yet. Octavia surprises her by explaining that after making her choice, she will completely forget the part she didn't choose. This means if she chooses to be human, she will forget she was ever a vampire. If she chooses to be a vampire, she will forget she was ever human. That's why Octavia wrote her memoirs before making her choice, chose to be human to continue feeling and not living in darkness. Thanks to her memoirs, she still remembers being a bloodsucker, and all her illustrated stories were written thanks to her memories. At that moment, Carmy begs Octavia to tell her who her real parents are. Octavia responds by telling her that her father was human, but her mother was evil, fighting hybrids to prevent them from choosing to be human because she loves the darkness as a vampire. Octavia warns Carmy that if one of them reaches the other, it means Carmy would become an evil vampire like her mother. Carmy is shocked by what she has learned. At that moment, the two unknown individuals return to Aiden and Jaden's house. They are very afraid when they see them and realize it's impossible to let them take Carmy away from them. The two strangers are surprised by their words and tell Asha and Bale that they work in the field of electronic mathematics. Their names are Gabby and Matthew, and they have come because Aiden and Jaden won the electronic sports games competition, and they want them to participate representing their company in the global competition. Aiden and Jaden are very happy about this. Later, Carmy talks to Kev, worried that she will turn evil like her mother, or that she is inherently evil and doesn't know it. Kev reassures her that she is a good person and not evil. When Carmy arrives at school, she talks to Madison, feeling frustrated because she can't remember the dance moves for the theater performance, and Liana is far ahead of her. Maybe it's because she doesn't practice as much as her, so Madison suggests they go out together to change the atmosphere a bit so she can focus better. Carmy is very happy and agrees. They sit together in a cafe, and Carmy learns that this cafe belongs to Madison's mother. They get to know each other then. Madison asks Carmy why she's always worried as if something is bothering her. Carmy tells her that she's now thinking about her real mother and whether she'll be close to her or not. Then they go to the cinema and coincidentally meet Liana there. Madison is shocked to learn that tonight is a full moon, and she becomes very afraid and nervous. Suddenly, her nails grow longer and sharper, and her teeth become pointed like a wolf's. At that moment, Carmy is shocked to notice the transformation happening to Madison. She gets up to follow her to the bathroom, where she is surprised to find that Madison has turned into a werewolf and attacks her because she doesn't recognize that she is Carmy. So, Carmy decides at that moment to reveal her true identity as a vampire to defend herself. They engage in a fierce struggle. When Madison calms down, she tells Carmy that she was sure she was a vampire and realizes that she hasn't chosen yet. She explains to Carmy that she is very happy with her situation and feels special. She warns Carmy not to tell Kev about her true nature. Meanwhile, Kev is at Carmy's house and notices that Bale is sad. He learns from him that Rini, the dog, is missing. Kev tries with Aiden and Jaden to come up with a plan to find Rini. They go together to the last place where Rini was with them and search everywhere. Kev then decides to turn to Dylan for help, as he is a hunter. In the library, Aljami is very biased and annoyed with Dylan because he still hasn't brought him any hybrids. Dylan asks him to calm down because hunting requires precision and patience, and no one is as skilled as him from the Helsing family. He tells him that they are legends and heroes, but Aljami doesn't care about all that talk. He knows that he needs hybrids urgently because time is running out. At night, Carmy and Madison are on the rooftop of a building, each showing off her supernatural abilities to the other. When Dylan's name comes up, Carmy tells Madison about his true nature, warns her to be cautious of him because he is a hunter who hunts people like them. However, Madison laughed mockingly and tells her that it's impossible for Dylan to be a hunter. Even if he turned out to be one, they are strong enough to face him. Later, Dylan is with Kev, Aiden, and Jade searching together for Rini, the dog. Carmy arrives and is surprised that Kev has enlisted Dylan's help. He explains to her that Dylan hasn't seen them or knows that they have discovered his true nature, and he decided to use him as an expert in hunting to find Rini. At that moment, they find Rini, and Bale is overjoyed by her return home. Then, Madison, in her werewolf form, attacks Aljami in the library. A little later, Aljami wakes up, and when he sees the scratch marks on the door, he confirms that what happened to him was real, not a dream. The next morning, Carmy talks to Kev about Dylan, saying he's a good and kind friend. However, if he knew her true nature, he would definitely hurt her. She's confused about how she should behave towards him. Carmy is then in theater rehearsals. She is helped by Chess during training. She learns from her that with more training, she could become the star of the play. When Liana hears them, she becomes annoyed and reveals that she has been the star of the plays since her first day at school, and it's impossible for anyone to take her place as they would become her enemy. During the rehearsals, Liana tries to annoy Carmy and confuse her to get Chess to remove her from the play. However, Carmy is skillful and outstanding, which frustrates Liana and makes her unable to train, so Chess gives them a 5-minute break. Madison then talks to Carmy, telling her that she scared Aljami yesterday to stop him from making more funny movies about werewolves. She tells Carmy that she is skillful and outstanding in training. If she were in her place, she would have drunk all of Liana's blood. She reassures her that next year she will definitely get the lead role. At the same time, Dylan is at the library with Aljami, telling him that he found a different kind of hybrid yesterday. Her eyes were yellow and she had long, sharp claws. Her fangs could cut a human arm in a second. Doesn't know how he managed to survive her. He asks him to catch her quickly because she is special, just like the ones he's looking for. However, Dylan refuses, telling him that he knows the identity of this hybrid, and because her owner won't be able to surrender her, makes Aljami annoyed with him. Dylan makes him think about his family's reputation as hunters and their history, realizing that this could ruin their entire history. Then Kev comes and sees Dylan leaving the library. He is surprised by his presence when he's not there and asks Aljami if he knows Dylan, but Aljami denies it and changes the subject. After a while, Madison goes to the library to get some photos from Kev to hang up. He asks her to warn Carmy. Madison is surprised, and at that moment, Aljami feels like he has seen Madison before. He approaches her and asks her. She responds that he has seen her and will keep seeing her in his nightmares. At the same time, at school, Carmy notices that Liana is very tense. She is surprised and talks to her because this is not the first play she's been in. Liana tells her that this is not just a regular performance. Her chance to become a star could come from this. She must perform perfectly because this could be the ladder to the glory she dreams of. Carmy tells her that she is the most skilled in the group in memorization and choreography and has never made a mistake. Unlike herself, who is completely different, she is afraid of the stage and the audience, afraid of forgetting and making mistakes during the performance, and wishes she could be as skilled as her one day. Then, Liana decides to help and encourage her, just as she helped her. When Carmy meets Madison, she learns that Kev asked her to warn herself. Carmy is surprised and asks her why. She tells her that she doesn't know, and that Kev didn't tell her anything. At that moment, Dylan is watching them. At night, Kev searches Aljami's office to find out what he and Dylan are hiding. He then finds the jar safe, is shocked to find one of them labeled labeled with Carmi's name. At the same time, Aljami finds a little girl in the library. Suddenly, she transforms, and he realizes that she is Shapeshifter. She asks him if he brought her the things he asked for, or not yet. Aljami is nervous and scared of her, telling her that there is a hunter hunting her now. At the same time, Kev is hiding, hears everything. Shapeshifter tells Aljami that this is his last warning, and then she disappears. Kev goes to Aljami to understand what is happening. Aljami tells him that Shapeshifter kidnapped his daughter, Julie, and forced him to collect the hybrids. At school, behind the theater scenes, Carmi sees Dylan looking for her. She tries to hide from him and sends a message to Kev asking him to come and help her. However, she discovers that he came because of Madison, not her. Madison appears in her werewolf form, and they engage in a conflict. Carmi tries to protect Liana from what is happening because she has her headphones on and can't hear anything. Suddenly, Carmi finds herself flying above them, and she faints from shock. Afterward, Liana wakes up and tells Chess that she saw Carmi flying. Chess is shocked by what she is saying and realizes that she is imagining strange things because of her stress. It's clear that the play and its story have affected her. Chess then decides to let Carmi take Liana's place. When Carmi starts singing and acting, everyone is impressed by her performance, and they applaud her. Liana remains standing, stunned. Meanwhile, Dylan manages to hit Madison with his magical staff and captures her. He goes to Aljami and gives it to him, letting him know that this is the last time he will do this for a hybrid. When Carmi and Kev find out that Dylan has taken Madison, Carmi confronts him, accusing him of betraying their friendship. He is shocked to realize that Carmi has known his true nature all along. At that moment, Kev arrives and informs them that Aljami is collecting hybrids for the Shifter Shep to bring back his daughter, Julie, who was kidnapped from him. Dylan is shocked because he knows that shifters are the most powerful of the supernaturals. Carmi asks him why he hunts hybrids. He tells her that he does it to protect the world from monsters, supernaturals, and hybrids. However, Kev tells him that all this time he was helping Shapeshifter form a supernatural army. The next day is the day of the play. Chess looks for Carmi everywhere but can't find her. Liana tries with Chess to get her to return to her place, but she refuses completely. At that time, Dylan goes to Aljami and explains that he has come to bid him farewell before leaving the city. He takes out of his bag a jar containing Carmi and hands it over to Aljami. It becomes apparent then that Dylan and Carmi are working together to rescue Madison. Afterward, the jar containing Carmi is accidentally opened, and she manages to get out of it. She helps Madison to get out of the jar she is trapped in. Meanwhile, Aljami and Dylan find Julie in front of them. She asks her father if he gathered the hybrids as Shapeshifter asked him to. He takes her to the safe to give her Carmi and Madison. However, he is surprised to find that they have escaped. Suddenly, Julie transforms into Shapeshifter and, in her anger, immobilizes Aljami and Dylan. She tells Aljami that her hybrid daughter has chosen to become a vampire like her, forgetting her human life completely and forgetting him personally. Then she disappears, and Dylan and Aljami are free. At the same time, Carmi and Madison are with Kev, gives them 2 onions to return to their normal size. Dylan then arrives, and Madison is surprised that he is helping them, tells her that he doesn't want to lose his friends. Then Carmi goes to the theater, very nervous and reluctant to go on stage. However, Kev encourages her and tells her that she is very talented and brave. Afterward, the curtains open and Carmi appears on stage. She sings and dances without fear and gives a wonderful performance that amazes everyone. When everyone applauds her, Carmi flies into the air, and the audience thinks it's a theatrical trick. However, Chess is surprised because it's not in the script. She then brings Liana to the stage, tells everyone that without Liana, she wouldn't have been able to perform today. Liana is very happy at that moment. Then a video call comes to Carmi from someone named Rick. He tells her that he knows everything about her and doesn't want her to believe what's happening around her. He says she must let her heart choose the path, as he knows she is also supernatural. After that, Dylan and Kev bring a paper from the stories of hybrids and supernaturals and show it to Carmi so she can know the truth. It's written on it the name Carmela, and the shock is that her mother is the shifter. At the same time, Aljami is sitting sadly about his daughter, Julie. He decides to find her and bring her back at any cost. Suddenly, it is discovered that Aljami is also a supernatural and a hybrid.